I'd like to welcome you all to the rededication of the Delancey family burying ground. My name is Gail Boyle, and I'm one of the co-presidents of the Mamaroneck Historical Society, along with John Fritz, right here. And today we are not only celebrating the restoration of this historic site, we are also celebrating the strength of our community. This project could not have been done without the support of our local government and our many donors who gave both their time, their money, and their muscle power. But first and foremost, we are all in great debt to the leaders of this project, Mike Tripico, where are you, Mike? And Peter Fellows. They are amazing. The Delancey family burying ground where we stand was just up the hill from the Delancey home. And John Peter Delancey was one of the founders of the new parish of St. Thomas Episcopal Church in 1804. The church officiated the burials here for over 100 years. And so today, we are truly pleased to welcome the current pastor of St. Thomas Episcopal, the Reverend Carol Gadsden, as she rededicates the burial site.
Gracious and loving Creator, I call on your presence so that the words I invoke in your name are sacred and holy, that this lovingly restored ground reflects the beauty of your creation, and the lives of those who rest here be remembered with deep affection and respect as we rededicate this, the burying grounds of your servants, the Delancey family. We remember and are grateful for the philanthropic, educational, and religious contributions made by the Delancey family to Mamaroneck, to St. Thomas Church, and to the Episcopal Diocese of Western New York. May we also be reminded of John Peter Delancey's push to end the immoral practice of slavery, although a slaveholder himself. May we, in his memory, be committed to ensuring we work to create a world where all of God's creation know and live God's promise that all people are created equal. Let us pray. Almighty God, with whom still live the spirits of those who die in the Lord, and with whom the souls of the faithful are in joy and felicity, we give your heartfelt thanks for the good examples of your servants, the Delanceys, who, having finished their course in faith, now find rest and refreshment. May their souls and the souls of all the departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Gadsden. We appreciate. So Mike Tripico and Peter Fellows, our Mamaroneck Historical Society board members, proposed to the board in March of 2018 what they called the long-term project, the restoration of the Delancey Cemetery. And it's hard for all of us to believe that they were able to complete this project in under 2 years, pandemic and all. And so first, we want to thank the Mamaroneck Historical Society Board for supporting this effort, and they're here today. So in addition to John and I, we thank George Migadician, Don Sutherland, Don, you want to be? Phyllis Cascal, thank you for guarding the door, Phyllis, wherever you are. Ray Maldonado, Ray, Betty Pollock, John Verney, and Carol Aiken, one of our President Emeritus, and Donald March, our President how do you say that? Emeritus? Emeritus, for his long-term commitment to the historic burying grounds of Mamaroneck. And now you're in for a treat. Peter Fellows, our historian, whose historical research helps us understand how this site connects today with the founding of Mamaroneck, and he's going to tell us why we should care.
You and I are standing on ground that connects us to the very beginning of Mamaroneck. It was in a September day, perhaps even like today, 359 years ago, that Wapaquiwam, the Wekisque Indian sachem, walked these ancient forests with the English merchant trader John Richbell to show him the extent of the three necks that became or were going to become Mamaroneck. Now, John Richbell made his home further down the hill on the lower section, overlooking the Sakara Trail, the Indian Trail, and the glistening waters, because they were crystal clear at that time, of the harbor. But he chose to be buried, well, he might not have had much say in that actually, but one assumes he had some say, in the meadow beside the harbor, just off Rushmore Avenue in Orienta. After his death and after his wife passed, the land passed to Caleb Heathcote, as it was pronounced at the time. He built a beautiful mansion on the home lot belonging to, or originally belonging to the Richbells on the hill, which became known as Heathcote Hill, overlooking the Westchester Path as it became known, and the harbor. In 1711, Heathcote was the mayor of New York. He founded the Trinity Church there, so it's natural that when he died, that is where he chose to be buried. The coming of the revolution just before it, that mansion unfortunately burned down. The revolution devastated Mamaroneck, devastated it tremendously, and many of the people in Mamaroneck just moved out to get to somewhere safe. But when it was over, they returned to rebuild the community, and one of the people who came here was Heathcote's grandson, John Peter Delancey, and he chose to build his wooden mansion on the same lot that had belonged to old Richbell, overlooking what would become the Boston Post Road Turnpike, because he straightened that road. You used to have to go up Mamaroneck Avenue and across Tompkins. He made it where you see it today. As a matter of fact, they had to pay for it by a toll house, and the toll house is in Rye Neck, where 25 North is, the Italian restaurant. That building still stands. There's no longer a toll, though, at least in that way. He was, as has been mentioned, such an important person here because everything was changing. Everything was changing very quickly. The state was mandating that everybody should be able to get an education and local communities should fund it. He was on that school board. He was instrumental in the building of the Weaver Street School, which the building no longer exists. It was below Palmer and above the Post Road. And of the 1815 schoolhouse, which is now on Harbor Island on the Post Road. Beautiful example of what he did. He is known for something he didn't do, and that was his daughter, Susan, married James Fenimore Cooper, the author of Last of the Mohicans and things like that. But it's for what he did, and this is a time when everything is changing in America. One of the things, as mentioned, was this question of what do we do about slavery? We're really beginning to understand this is totally unacceptable. But our livelihood, our economic system is built around it. And those struggles to find a way to disengage from this horrific type of act marked the struggles that all the people around were facing, because there was others in Mamaroneck who also had slaves and wanted to make this move. In addition to that, there was a question of what is an American? Our community was predominantly loyalist, but of course there were many patriots. And who gets to be an American and who doesn't? And that was a question about John P. Delancey himself, and it was answered by the nephew of John Jay, the first justice, Peter J. Monroe. He wrote the defense for JP and said, yes, he should be allowed to be considered an American citizen and vote. In 1806, a tragedy struck. The 12-year-old daughter of JP and his wife died in an accident And he chose this place to lay her to rest. There was a garden behind the Delancey house, and if you walked just up a hill where the Rangers, Loyalist Rangers, and the Delaware Blues from the Continental Army fought and died in battle, you came to these wonderful peach orchards. And beyond that were these wonderful apple orchards, very extensive. And finally you came to the remains of the ancient forest and an open enclosure here, a shady enclosure, and this is where he chose to lay her to rest. The next that he had to bury was his older sister, Elizabeth, who lived with them. She'd had a very good life, though, and he buried her here. And then his wife passed away in May of 1820, and in October he lost his son, and he buried him here too. Then another son, Judge Thomas, died, and he had to bury him. And the final person that J.P. buried was a young boy named William Ellison, who was the younger brother of the judge's widow. He passed in 1828, and the house became vacant on that hill. Nobody lived there. His son, William Heathcote, was the first resident of St. Thomas, and became the first bishop of Western New York. And he lived up in Geneva, near the church he had founded, St. Peter's, but he chose to be buried down here in Mamaroneck, near his parents, with his younger son Peter, who had died. Peter was 19, and after him his wife was buried beside him, as is right. And the bishop's son, the famous historian Edward Floyd Delancey, in 1905, when he passed, he also chose to be buried here, even though he was living in Ossining with his son. He was buried here by his young children and his wife. And he was the last burial, and his son, Edward Etienne, noticed at the time that there was some damage to the stone wall and paid to have it repaired. 2 years later, the strangest thing happened. The church in St. Peter felt that the founder of St. Peter should be interred in their crypt, and so the bishop, his wife, and the 19-year-old, or was 19-year-old son, were removed from here and taken to Geneva to St. Peter's, and that's where they reside today. As time went on, these stone walls disappeared. We can conjecture where they may have gone, but they just disappeared. And by the 70s, when a survey was done, they were gone. There was a few rocks, boulders on the far side, and that was it. And in 2018, Michael, seeing this, Michael Tripico, said, could we restore this? Could we make it whole again? So now you have the history, and now you're going to have his story.
So next we welcome Mike Tripico, the Energizer Bunny. Thank you, Peter, for the history that grounded us, literally. But Mike's going to share with you how he and Peter took this idea, and made it happen through the tremendous support of our community. So here's Mike.
Thank you, Gail. No, I'm good, I think. Welcome, and thank you all for being here today. Peter has given you a brief history, and my job is to give you the short summary, the Reader's Digest view of the project from concept to completion. Okay, first comes the concept.
Just hold it by your nose.
Oh, too far away? Sorry. Okay, I read an old description of the Delancey family burial grounds by Susan Delancey, Cooper's daughter, who Peter just told you about, and learned that there used to be the stone wall around the burial grounds. That wall, in almost its entirety, has been non-existent since before 1900. This led me to think about rebuilding it, and after looking over the site, I realized that if we were to rebuild the wall, maybe we should restore the whole burial grounds. I recruited Peter Fellows, as co-chairman and chief researcher for the project, and also formed a burial grounds committee from the Mamaroneck Historical Society. Then we searched and found a restoration conservator out in Sag Harbor, New York. We approached the town of Mamaroneck for approval, which we got, and also for help in funding the project, which they also did. We then took the general fundraising, the Harrison Mamaroneck Rotary Club and the Mamaroneck Historical Society immediately responded and sponsored the project, as did many, many other generous donors. Then we had to go on to the restoration. Our conservators started actual restoration on the gravestones in May 2019. We also started to construct the stone wall then. Lots of hard work and time by many volunteers led to what you see out here today. There's some amenities. We have added a bench over there in our park, and that was donated by Ray Maldonado. Thank you, Ray. A forever bronze plaque right behind Peter, which will be there hopefully forever, and an interpretive reader to my right, which will tell us what's in this burial grounds. We added new grass, topsoil, a couple new trees were added to make up for the few that we had to take out, which were dead, to make this very visible burying grounds a beautiful Village of Mamaroneck historical site. And as far as I know, this is Mamaroneck's first complete burial grounds restoration, and we're proud of what was accomplished here over the last 3 years. Hope you all are also. And at this time, I would ask Gail Boyle and John Fritz, our co-presidents, to come forward. We want to hand out a few awards. We're going to do that after.
Do that after.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, first, this would be a joint one to the town of Mamaroneck. Mr. Steve Altieri and Nancy Seligson. Could they come up, please?
And the whole board is here, too.
Well, if they're all here, yeah. Anybody else on the board that's here? Steve's total support. His total support and advice and putting up with me for the past 3 years is like outrageous. I mean, I thought I was going to get ejected from the building many times. And Nancy, she saw a dream and she supported us, as did the board, and we're very happy that they did that. And this kicked us off. And you should go see our pictures and displays at the town center if you're over there. They've given us that opportunity to display things there. So thank you, Steve and Nancy.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Okay, next, the Rotary Club of Harrison Mamaroneck. They sponsored us and started us off with a very generous contribution. And I'd like to ask Dr. Bob Ruskin to come forward. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Oop. Good job. Thanks so much for being there. Okay, next would be, I don't believe he's here today, Coach Anthony Vitti and his football team.
He's coaching his son.
He's coaching his son today. Okay, so he's not here, but they did the hard work of building this whole stone wall. Those boys worked really hard, and we want to thank them. And we'll get this to Coach Vitti.
Yep.
Okay. Next would be Sage Deli. Vito is here and Silvio are here. I'd like the guys to come forward. Thank you for keeping our team fed and hydrated during this time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Keep it here, man.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, back to the town of Mamaroneck again. I'd like to ask Alan Castorella to come in. He's here somewhere. There he is. Yep. Okay. Alan and the whole highway department were absolutely great. And also from the town, we had Dennis Cuccinella here. Dennis Cuccinella, I'm sorry, I'm not talking into the mic. his expertise and hard work, he went beyond the call of duty with the bench and the reader and everything. He was there when we needed him. He was there. So thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that, guys. Okay. The burial ground preservation group, I think Zach is here somewhere. Zach, come forward if you would. These guys did a great job. I mean, fantastic job. And we may have more work for them to do.
That's what we do. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Zach.
And thank Kurt and Jill for
Yes, yes.
Certainly will.
Tell them about a little bit about what the preservation group is, because people don't know that.
Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, thanks again for inviting me here. It's a tremendous privilege because we do the work on the stones, and we rarely have the opportunity to come back and see a project really completed in the way this has been done, with the site work, this interpretive signage. It's all very, very important because it enables people to understand how important these sites are to the community. So we were really, really pleased to have been a part of this, and we'd love to be invited back. You have several other very important sites that need a little bit of sprucing up, a little bit of work, and we'd love to work with you. So thanks again.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, next would be Ray Maldonado. Come on up here, Ray. Ray did all the grounds work, stone work, just about everything else that was necessary to do. This guy was amazing. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Steve Scarangella, I know he's here. Steve and Alice, want to come up? Steve was very generous in the use of his house, his facilities, his garage, his power, his water, everything. Everything.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Alice.
Take care.
Okay, next would be John and Peter Dionisio from ASAP. I didn't see them. I don't think they're here. Their fundraising effort in selling calendars for us really went a long way on this project, so we want to thank them, and we'll make sure that John and Peter get this award. And also Rick Mangone from Farmers Market, I'm not sure he's here either. He donated the topsoil, a couple loads of topsoil which we needed to level off and get the ground started again. And also Joanne from Larchmont Nurseries, who donated 2 trees out front. They're starting to come up now, so hopefully in another year they'll look even better. We thank Joanne for that. We'll get this award to her. Okay, so, yes.
Recognize George Latimer.
Okay.
He's here.
Okay. I'll do that toward the end, all right? Okay, so now, in no particular order, we do want to make some thank yous. One to the Mamaroneck Historical Society for sponsoring this whole project. The Village of Mamaroneck, Barry Castorella from the Parks Department, he donated some work materials for us. The Village of Larchmont, Rick Vitti from the DPW donated some stone, which helped build the wall and this new walkway, which you're looking at here. This was not here originally. We added this. Mega Signs for working with us so closely on building all the signs and giving us great prices. So I want to just recognize them for that work. The Elks Club in Mamaroneck, I believe they're sitting out over here. Thank you for your generous contributions and help in this project. Spinelli Surveying. Richie Spinelli, I'm sure most of you know, he scaled all our maps for the stone wall placement, without which we couldn't have really set this wall where it should be. We could have made the wall, but we couldn't have put it where it should have been. Thanks to Richie, we were able to do that. George Megradichian, he helped get us the needed supplies that we needed. Donald March. Donald is here, who's his earlier research on burial grounds really started me off on this project, so thank you, Donald, for that. Carol Gadsden from St. Thomas, who you saw earlier. her help in allowing us to access the archives to research this thing, and Pamela McGuire from Christ Church in Rye, and Tamsin from Trinity Church in Ossining for help in researching the project also, the Delancey burials basically. Patrick Raftery from the Westchester County Historical Society. I don't know if Patrick's here. Oh, Patrick's here. Thank you, Patrick. The earlier maps we got from you and pictures were amazingly helpful. I mean, without that, this wall probably couldn't have been built. So thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. Okay. LMC-TV for covering the restoration project. Now, Gail Boyle and John Pritz, our co-presidents, their never-ending support was amazing. And Gail, you did a great job setting this up today. Thank you. The Burial Grounds Committee. We had a committee, believe it or not, besides me and Peter.
We did.
Tony DeMayo,
Yeah.
who I think is here, James Maver, who I saw somewhere, Steve Scarangella, Phyllis Cascal, and especially Ray Maldonado and Peter Fellows, without whom this project never would have gone anywhere without these guys. I want to thank all the individual donors for their contributions to the cause. We want to thank I just found out George Latimer is here, so we want to acknowledge him. Thank you for coming, George. We appreciate that. Tom Murphy is here somewhere also. Oh, there he is back there. Thanks, Tom. Okay. Where my wife? Yeah. Okay. And to my wife, Liz, who put up with more than enough of my craziness these last 3 years than she should have, and she's helped me all along the way. Thank you, Liz. I really appreciate all the help. And lastly, gonna end this, to John Peter Delancey for giving us this land and this moment in time to forever remember Mamaroneck's wonderful history. So, thanks, John. Peter?
Actually, Mike just stole a little bit of my closing, which was the two more people here who we absolutely have to give our thanks to today. The two people that put up with Mike and Peter, these two wild and crazy guys who have like a one-topic conversation around here. So we want to acknowledge the support of their wives, Liz Tripico and Jeannie Fellows. How would you like to live with these two through this? Jeannie, come on up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sainthood. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Get your scissor, Mike. Mike wants to cut the ribbon. It's behind you. Ray has it. This is the official opening, and we invite you to come and visit the site. What? Do what? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Nancy and Steve, please come forward. Our big supporters from the get-go. Yeah. Everybody. You're welcome. Good. Yes, absolutely. Didn't know you were all going to be here. Go. That's okay. Mike's been waiting for this for a long time. Woo. And thank you. Mike and Peter, and I know Zach is here as well, and we'll be offering tours of the site. You're welcome to obviously either enter through the front, or you may want to join Mike at the back entrance, which is the way.
Yes, if you'd like to see how it was back in the day, you follow Mike to the original entrance, and you'll get the feeling for what they saw when they came up this hill. So he's the Pied Piper. Feel free to follow.
So thank you. Please enjoy. And thank you for coming.